Last year, there was a lot of controversy with a book called Firebird by Juliette, and I read it last year, I think August or September, I think August. And I have been wanting to film and edit and publish this video for a really long time, but I lost half of my footage, and then I reread the back half of the book and tried to redo the footage and lost it again. Then I said, forget it, I'll just go with what I have. And then I lost that footage, found it a few months later, and now I'm finally I'm like, this is it, I'm doing this video. But I did want to preface the video with this, and then I will actually, let me tell you. Okay, so the controversy, what were people's issues? I wrote down notes after watching the TikToks again because I don't explain it in the clips you're about to see. So what were the problems that people had with this book? So a lot of people had an issue with the fact that the MMC meets the FMC when she is a minor and when she is dancing for him. I'm going to go over that. I'm going to go over everything. They have an issue with the slave master dynamic, and that was not included in the blurb. That they feel like the way the book was marketed did not accurately represent what was in the book. Where's my next one? Oh, they said that there was random violence that didn't need to be there and kind of felt like it was a shock factor. And then they also felt like the FMC was a person of color and should not have been written in a slave master dynamic by a white author. So those are the kind of like bullet points. And then I'm gonna let you see like what I filmed way back when I actually was reading the book. I was like going page by page because I wanted to fine tooth comb, go through it with a fine tooth comb. And I'll just let past me explain.
Hello. This might turn into a reading vlog, but it also might turn into a rant. I'm not entirely sure. But I did purchase Firebird by Juliette. I did purchase it secondhand on Pango Books. And I want to read it for myself because, as you may know, there was a lot of discourse when this first came out about a lot of issues, and I'm a person that likes to read things and research things for myself. And so that's what I'm gonna do. So I wanted to make a video about my thoughts, whether they be good, they be bad. All right, so one thing that I noticed right away, I'm gonna put the picture on the screen, but I'm reading the author's note, and I remember that some people were upset. I think it was the FMC. I think they were upset that the FMC is Romanian, but Juliette is saying that Melina, I'm assuming she's the FMC, is Dacian. Melina and her family are from the ancient territory of Dacia, which is modern day Romania. And so the only reason she has them speaking Romanian in the book is because Dacian was not recorded. It's an extinct language and was not recorded. So she chose to use the language of the people who live there today. So I looked up Dacia, and that was part of the Roman Empire. So in that case, Melina is still Roman. That's like saying I'm American and I'm from Michigan. Like, Melina is Roman and she's from the territory of Dacia. So as a character, she's not Romanian. She might be speaking Romanian in the book, but only because we don't have the Dacian language. If we had the Dacian language, if it was recorded, she would be speaking Dacian in the book, not Romanian, because she's Dacian, not Romanian. But that's just the author's note. That's just the author's note. I will continue to read. I don't want to make it seem like I'm just making excuses for Juliette. I just want to read it in the most... There's no way that I can be completely unbiased, but I do want to read it in the most intentionally unbiased way that I can, and in the most level-headed logistical way that I can. So that's why I stopped. I looked it up. But anyway, I just wanted to point that out. It says here, especially for a wild 17-year-old girl. So people talking about like, she's a child. She is under the age of 18. So, well, I don't know about all that. No. Okay, so I will admit I'm a little silly. I realized why. It's because the Roman Empire has, what's that C word? Conquered their government or whatever. So they're Dacian, but they've been conquered by Rome. So yeah, that's why they say the Romans are coming, because these are the people that these are the people that have conquered their land and their government and things of that nature. So on to the dance. The dance was suggestive, seductive, both. So the sister, Melina is the main character. And her sister says, okay, so Melina says, the world is an interesting place. And her sister says, and dangerous, especially for a wild 17-year-old girl and one who appears much older. And then they talk about how, like, she has a curvier body than her sister. And so, okay, on one hand, you know, he doesn't know her age. He could think that she's currently 18. I wonder why she couldn't just be 18. I'm going to look it up in just a second, but I want to know if maybe, like, because it's saying how, like, her sister is engaged already, and Melina knows that, like, her mom has already made comments that she's next to get married. Like, her mom's going to be focused on getting her married. So I wonder if, like, there's, and I'm sure there probably is, but I want to look it up for sure, if like, she needs to be 17 because by 18 she would already be. We don't see her sister's age. So, like, if her sister was 26 and just getting married, I'd be like, well, why can't Melina be 18? Like, that wouldn't be far off, and then she'd be an adult, and, you know, like, we don't have to have this conversation. Excuse me, but if her sister is just now 18 and getting married, it would make sense that if she needs to be married at 18, it would make sense that she's currently 17. So I will see if I can find any information, and I will come back. But I just finished, that was the prologue. Also, I will say, so Julian, I just did a little sneak peek of the next chapter, so I'm assuming his name is Julian. But the male main character, the love interest of sorts, he tosses Melina a coin after the dance, and then he comes to find her, and he says that Lady Fortuna speaks to him, and she told him to give her this coin because she's going to need good fortune soon. So, and she was like, well, what did you give me this gold coin for? Like, you're not getting anything else for it. And he's like, I didn't want anything else for it. So I do have to say that conversation is in here. He's like, that's not what I'm here for. I'm just trying to listen to Lady Fortuna because she speaks to me and I try to do what she says. But I want to come back and see if I can find any information about the age. Okay, there's not a lot of information out there, which makes sense. But it does look like most marriages were arranged, which would make sense, again, why Melina says, like, her mom has been making comments and she knows that, like, her mom is going to be focused on getting her married next. If her mom is starting to think that way, can't she also start to think about, you know, what she wants in a marriage? Sure. But again, why make her 17? Why make her 17? I don't know. Like, she could have just been 18. I don't know. As a 17-year-old, I don't know. Also, I don't know how old Julian is. That might change my thoughts too. So, again, she looks like she's 17. She looks like she's an adult. She's dancing provocatively, which Obviously, so her sister has the fiance, Jardani, and Jardani is there. And I would assume that Jardani is there to make sure that all the girls are safe. When you know that your daughter is dancing provocatively, surely you would think that you're putting her in a particular situation. And also, I will say that her older sister told her not to do the provocative part of the dance. She told her, like, just do the first part of the dance and we're going to cut it early. And in the middle of the dance, she's like, no, I'm going to do this because she wants to. And her sister is giving her the eyes like, don't you do it. And she does it anyway. So in that case, I guess maybe when you know that the stakes are a little higher, you know, they were trying to keep her safe or safer. Again, we don't know how old Julian is yet. And that's a big deal. Like, is it though? Because again, even if he thought she was pretty, I'm sorry, I'm not fully in the thing, but I'm honestly, my shoulders are tight. I've been laying on my stomach for quite a while. I need to get up. But even if he was 25, he doesn't know how old she is. And even if he thought she was hot, he didn't hand her that coin because he wanted her, you know, to go with him to his tent. He didn't hand her that coin to say like, hey, I want to come back and marry you in 2 months. He handed her the coin or tossed the coin to her because Lady Fortuna told him to. Someone that he worships told him to. And he was just following that guidance. And then came back to explain it. And again, not ask for anything else. There was no weird behavior. There's no touching, no nothing like that. So, I don't know. I feel like, again, if she could have just made Melina 18, we would have none of this conversation. But I don't know. I'm going to keep reading. I don't know. We'll see. Okay. I just finished chapter 1, the end of chapter 1. Yeah. Okay. So, hold on. So, there's an issue going on, and Julius, I think his name is Julius comes across Melina again, and he says, Firebird, I whispered, because that's his little nickname for her. I whispered in utter shock, remembering the young girl, so he did recognize that she wasn't an adult yet, remembering the young girl I'd spoken to in a meadow under the moonlight long ago, the one Fortuna had singled out as special, but not only Fortuna, my dragon as well. That's understandable. Do we not understand fated mates? Your fated mates, whether you're underage or overage, your fated mates. I'm sorry, but your fated mates. He didn't do anything. He didn't try to keep her, didn't try to, like take her away because as soon as you become 18, you're my mate. And no, like he let her live. He just went about his day. Like, anyway, but we don't even have the word mate here. My dragon singled her out as special. Okay. Suddenly, my dragon recognized her and roared to the surface. His dragon is angry because of the situation that Melina was in. I want to try to not spoil as much as I can. With earth shattering. Okay, so basically he turns into a dragon and he calls her treasure. She stands, a fierce treasure I have. She wants me to take her away. Opening my wings, I wrap her in my talons, lift into the sky, and carry her toward my lair where she belongs. That's his dragon thinking, not his human brain. His dragon is thinking this. It's in different font so that we can tell. But we've already established that Melina has a way of knowing like people's intentions, and so it's not wrong to think that the dragon may actually be sensing that she in particular wants to be taken away from the situation, which, girl, I don't blame you. So yeah, so far, and I'm really trying not to be biased here. So far, again, if she could have just been 18, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. But so far, I don't think anything's bad about this. I'm only done with chapter 1, but I'm just saying, so far, if I, you know, like if I see something crazy, I will say. But they, I don't know. They make it clear that she's Dacian. Her country, like, oh, there's a pretty bird outside. Sorry. Her country has obviously been overtaken by Rome. So yes, like her being with the general is kind of like she would have never been in that predicament that she was in, that she wants to be taken out of at the end of chapter 1. She would never be in that predicament if they weren't going around colonizing. That's the C word I've actually been looking for this whole time. But she wouldn't be in that predicament if they weren't colonizing in the first place. But that is something that happened. Like, that's what happened.
So that is where my old footage cuts out. I don't have anything else from that day. So I have written some notes so that I don't forget anything. So let's start with the first one, that people had an issue with a white author writing a person of color in this situation. So number one, Melina, as we have previously discussed, is Dacian. She is European. She may have tan skin, but she is European. So that's just off the board there. Number two, we've also heavily discussed that the male main character does meet her when she is a minor, but it is a one-off meeting. He just speaks, you know, like, oh, and also that she's dancing for him. People make it seem like she is, you know, a private dancer or something, or that, like, you know, she's lap dancing or something. She's on a stage, he's in the audience. It is just a random day. And he speaks to her for a few moments and walks away, thinking, he literally says, in his point of view, that he doesn't think he'll ever see her again in his entire life. So there's not really much to say there. The big issue here was the slave master issue. And so that was, you know, you saw none of that discussion that I had when I was reading the book, so I wanted to go through that. Excuse me. Starting with the fact that people are saying, you know, he still exchanged money for her. There was no money exchanged for her. She is in a very bad predicament when he sees her again for the second time, which, by the way, is 4 years later. So she's 21, math. She is in a very bad predicament, and quite literally he just grabs her, and in his dragon form he grabs her and flies away because he just immediately wants to remove her from that danger. There is never any money exchanged. The station in which he's in, because I still don't want to spoil anything for you if you decide to read the book in the future. The station, the job that he's in, the situation that he's in he is very bound to a lot of rules and regulations and things. So when he saves her, he's like, oh, crap, now what do I do? He's not going to put her in a predicament that will also impede on her safety. So the next thing to do is like, okay, I guess she's living with me at my house. And so that poses a lot of problems. So the easiest thing to do is say, okay, well, now you're my slave. Because he knows that he can keep her safe. People are like, he puts a collar on her. And that's not like a dom sub thing. It's a collar that has his name. It's a collar that all of the people in his home wear. And again, that's more so for protection, because she's allowed to come and go out of the house, and they go to the market, and they're, you know, like whatever the case is. And that collar says, like, don't touch me unless you want to, you know, have a conversation with him. And so it's more so a thing of protection. And it's also just the way that things, like, okay, he had a collar, but like, okay, I guess I'm also comparing this to real life. Yes, this is a fictional story, but it's based off of the Roman Empire where these things did happen. And instead of collars, they were branding people. You know, like there could be a lot worse. I feel like the author is working within the means of real life and being able to tell people's real life stories, which again I'll get to in a moment, but also through this fictional world. And so to me, I again just see that as protection, and that's my opinion. And maybe you might read the book and say, no, I vehemently hate that he, you know, puts a collar on her, and that's okay. But I mean, again, that's what I read, and that's how I read it. So here are my notes that I wanted to make sure I mentioned. Sorry, my finger was in the way there. It's very clear from the beginning that he is working, again, within his station to change things. And he has to have a legitimate reason to keep her safe. And that he does treat everyone in his house with respect. A lot of people are like, hey, like, she is a slave, which, you know, completely rules out the idea for consent. There is a conversation about this, and it is very clear that she does things on her terms. I also have seen people say Stockholm syndrome. And again, it's very clear that this is not the case. I think it's very easy to hear all of these buzzwords that people are saying on TikTok, and people are putting this book in the same category as, I can't even bring myself to talk about that book. But actually, now that I think about it, I'm like, I don't even want to say it out loud because it makes me so angry. I actually, never mind. I'm so sorry, but I just don't want to give any of these disgusting people any opportunity to have their name Googled or anything. But so I'm so sorry, but I have to just completely change the sentence I was gonna say. But people are putting this book in a category that I just truly think it doesn't belong. People are also talking about the fact that, like, Beauty and the Beast is a captor issue. There's a lot of captor relationships in alien romance, in pirate romance, and in pirate romance there's a lot of slave and slave master issues too. I think that it is a touchy subject, but I think that, again, there are so many stories to be told, and this is how this author chose to tell this one. I think that will make more sense when I say my next point, which is people talking about they say random sexual violence, and saying that, like, it felt more like it was just there to pull at emotions. In my understanding, it did not feel random. I think people can often misunderstand how evil people can truly be. I think that if you watched my videos from years ago, on the old channel, you may know this, but if you want to skip, like, here's a content warning for my personal trauma, you can skip to, like, this time period and I'll be done talking about it. But I have personal experience as a child with SA and trafficking. So to me, like, I do understand how evil people can be and how very little it takes for that switch to be flipped. So to me, oh, here's our time. Hello to the people who skipped forward. To me, I don't believe that it is random. I can very clearly see how realistic it is. So again, when I say things like the author is telling this story, I feel like there are a lot of people in history, a lot of women in history, but also people in history, a lot of children in history whose story is lost. And although they are not necessarily the main character here, I do think it does acknowledge their stories. It acknowledges my story. To see that in here and not be so terribly on page, because I am a person that believes that there should have been content warnings here. It wasn't so terribly on page to have an on page content warning, but I do feel like there is strength in that, in saying like, yes, this is, you know, what is the word I'm looking for? Oh my goodness. Based on Roman history, and this is the true history. And there are a lot of people whose lives were nothing but a blimp into historians, but for them, this was their everyday. So yeah, I do feel like it is a conversation, sexual violence as a means to identify the villain, as a means to just, there's a lot of ways in which sexual violence is used as a plot device in some books, but I think that that is a conversation that we as the romance community need to have as a whole. I don't think that it is like an individual shortcoming for Juliette Cross. I think this is a very much larger conversation that we should be having as authors and as readers, but I do think it's unfair to just randomly pull one person and say, well, you are the catalyst for this being an issue. I think that it goes all the way back to the mass market paperbacks and, women not having an opportunity to really explore sexual pleasure unless it was, not their choice. And it's something that I just think it's a larger conversation that is not meant to be a part of this particular video. I think that's everything. That's definitely everything that people had issues with. As a person with particular trauma, I did not at any point feel like the female main character, I did not at any point feel like Melina did something with the male main character that was without her consent. That is something that I'm very, 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 very aware of in any book that I read, in a book where they're supposed to be two sunshiny characters. Like, I am always about the consent. In a Katie Robert book, in an Alessa Thorne book, like in anything. So I mean, if this is the first video you've ever watched from me, you don't know me, but if you do know me, you understand how seriously I take that. And so for me to say that, like, on this video, when I'm purposefully, talking about the controversy of this book, I mean that. But anyway, those are the thoughts. Those are what people were saying. This is my, as unbiased as I possibly could, thoughts and reactions about the story. If you have any other questions about it, feel free to comment, or you can find me on Instagram and send me a DM. I'm happy to keep the conversation going. I just want to, again, it's very easy for hot button topics to catch fire on TikTok, and I 100% understand and am here for warning people about the things that you hear in books and saying like, hey, did anybody else flag this? Because for me personally, Sophie Lark is a person that I have been trying to flag people, you know what I'm trying to say, for years. For years, I have been trying to tell people about Sophie Lark, and then last year, the whole issue happened with the ARC, and I was like, finally, but I don't understand why nobody's been talking about, like, this particular issue. So I understand people, like, that haven't read a book before, they hear that this particular thing is in the book, and now they talk about it. But I think when I say that, like, again, words, cancel culture. When I say cancel culture can be harmful, it's like, this is what I mean. Like, these people don't know the facts, and I think sometimes it's very easy to hop on a bandwagon, or even to be that person that starts the bandwagon, and you talk about it because it's trending, not because it's true. And I think that unfortunately this book was a victim of that people talked about it because it was trending, and or because they had well intentions of warning people, but also did not have the true facts. And yeah, I don't know. That was a lot of words, and I'm just done talking. I'm looking forward to book 2. And again, if you have any questions, or if you have any concerns, maybe there's something I missed, maybe there's something I forgot about, and you want to talk about it, please let me know. Other than that, have a great day. Bye.